Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome to this very special edition of Atlanta Business Radio. It's time for Customer Experience Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Heineck & Company. Now, here's your host, Jill Heineck.
Good morning. This morning I have with us, I am so excited, we have Horst Schulze, the co-founder and former president and COO of the RitzCarlton Hotel Company, and founder and chairman emeritus of the Capella Hotel Group. His visionary and disruptive principles have reshaped excellence, service, and competitive advantage, transcending divisions of industry across the business landscape. Horst left RitzCarlton in 2002 and founded the Capella Hotel Group, an ultra-luxury hotel brand with hotels in Europe and Asia. He crafted the company's iconic mission statement, "Ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen," which reflects the value of respect for one's team, instilling a respect for others, our customer, clients, and guests. He is the author of Excellence Wins, and he is a dynamic keynote speaker and is a frequent consultant for global businesses and organizations. And he and his wife, Sherry, live here in Atlanta. Welcome, Horst.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I have read the book, and like I mentioned to you earlier, I've also listened twice. There's so many nuggets in this book, it's very difficult for me to I don't think we're going to cover it all.
Yeah. I'm sure if you read it, heard it twice and you read it, you're a better person now, aren't you? No?
I think so. We can always learn. Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, where the idea for this book came from and what compelled you to want to write something. I know it's only your first book, so you have a lot to share.
It is. In fact, I was urged a number of times, and including at a time with a good friend, Stephen Covey. Mm-hmm. He kind of kept on urging me to write a book, and I didn't do it. In fact, he called me one day, and I was sitting in the car driving home, and he called and said, "I'm disappointed in you. You haven't written your book yet, and I have written the foreword, but you haven't written the book." And I said, "I'm going to do it. I promise." And soon later, he died. Stephen died, mm-hmm. and it was a bad conscience that I said, Stephen, I have to do it. And I kept my made notes, and he kept on saying it is an important message that you have to give. And I kept made notes. I got somebody involved to help me to organize it. It would have been very convoluted if somebody wouldn't have organized it for me. And that is Dean Merrill, and we got everything together and finally had a book together. And we kept it in my voice, mm-hmm. and Dean wanted to do that, but Dean helped dramatically in putting it together.
Well, it was great. Did you enjoy that experience of putting everything on paper?
Yes, it was a great experience. And it was in the beginning very confusing to me because, as I said, I hit a subject and then I get involved in the subject and talk about that one subject over many years and jump back and forth. That's why organizing was good. But still, it was good to kind of put it all in proper perspective and thought and put it in a way where everybody would understand it. Mm-hmm. That was a great important attempt I made, that if a young person reads it who's not in business, that young person is excited reading it, that there's a story. And at the end, that young person would say, I can do this. I can be successful. And it is fun to go to work. Mm-hmm. It's a great experience. It's not a chore, something terrible. Working means you're creating something.
Right.
And you're with friends. By the way, that's a decision you make. If they're friends or not, it's your decision. It's not them. You made the decision if the people, you make the decision if you like your job or not the job.
Right.
It's kind of sad when you think how many people go to work unhappy. Well, whose fault is that? Right? They have to sit down and say, I'm going to be happy.
It's about the attitude.
It's about making a decision, the attitude. I think everything in life is just making a decision. I often tell the story. I'm in fact willing to do it in speeches. I'm married 40 years. Mm-hmm. I'm still in love. I made that decision. I mean, I hear some people say we're getting divorced, we don't feel like that. Wait a minute. Who's in charge of feelings here? I am in charge of my feeling. So that is true with work and with everything. It's true with how you see your organization, how you see yourself. What it really means, you have to be the leader of yourself. Leadership doesn't mean only somebody else, a boss, leading you. The first leadership is you leading yourself, and hopefully you lead yourself to excellence.
I love that. So let's talk about leading yourself and how you started in the early days when you were very young, and how your love for hotels started. Can you talk about that?
That I don't know. I really don't. Because for some reason, I went to my parents when I was 11 years old and said, I want to work in the hotel business. And they said, yes, okay. And we went on. But I kept on saying it. And that was nothing good. During that time in Germany, you went into a technical shop, you were respected. But going to a hotel, that was not respectable. Now, if I would have said I want to become an engineer, my mother would have told everybody in the village about it, because that was highly respected. But when I said I want to work in a hotel business, after a while they said, don't tell anybody. But I don't know the reason. I must have read something, because I've never been in a hotel. There is no hotel in my village where I grew up. But after a while they said, he is so insistent on it. I was throwing myself on the floor crying. So they found through an agency, government agency, how to pursue the career, found eventually a hotel, the best hotel in the region, which unfortunately was 100 kilometers away. At that time, that was very far. Hours of going there. But a very fine hotel. So I left home when I was 14, living in a dorm room in the hotel and working hard at the time. My kids don't like to hear that. We worked 20 hours and walked through the snow. No snow. No.
So those days you were working 12, 15-hour days.
No kidding. Oh, right. Yeah, no kidding. And you did that without giving it thought. That was norm.
Right.
You started often, we start for breakfast before 7 and finished 10, 11 o'clock in the night. That was not unusual. And what you did, you helped serving, helped cleaning, washed dishes, cleaned the floor, washed clean shoes in the corridors that the guests put outside for cleaning, the typical European, and so on. So you went to bed when they were finished with your work, and the next day you went on.
Right.
And frankly, I enjoyed it all the time. It was, I was lucky. There was a maitre d' that the man in charge of all the food and beverage operation of the hotel, who told us kids, there were a few other kids who started at the same time, told us, day one, don't work for work. Come here to be excellent. Well, went over my head at the time, 14 years old, and washing dishes, cleaning floors is not so excellent, but there's a lot of fun surrounding. The surrounding is beautiful. It took me a while to get his point, and it kind of lived with me. Why go to work and see it as something negative? Why not going to work to be creating, to create excellence? And I made my mind up at the time, and I was saying, I go to work for two reasons: to create excellence and to be with my friends. Anybody I work with, if that's the dishwasher or whatever, that doesn't mean I barbecue with them at work, but I enjoy being with them and help them and support them and get their support and help and create something excellent.
So let's talk about that and how that led to the creation of the RitzCarlton hotels.
Well, one thing, I go back to the maitre d' for a second. I went to hotel school once a week. That's a typical German way of growing up. And I worked in that place as an apprentice for 3.5 years, went to hotel school. And after 2 years, the teacher in hotel school asked us to write an essay, what we now think about the business. Now, going back when I started first there, my mother and everybody said, now that we have this job, this is a very fine hotel. We could never go in there. There only ladies and gentlemen go there, important people. It's not for us. Now behave yourself accordingly and so on. Now, 2 years further, in hotel school, the teacher asked us to write an essay, what we now feel about this industry. Mm-hmm. Going back to work, I reflected on this maitre d', this gentleman who would have never entered the room unless he looked perfect. This gentleman who only created excellence and everything he did and helped us and explained to us. I saw him that night approaching a table, and for the first time I realized the guests at that table were proud that he came to them. And I thought, this is true all around. Mm-hmm. The guests think that he's the most important person in the room. Mm-hmm. So did we, the employees. That was a reversal. We were supposed to be the servants. I was told that first day by the general manager, we're the servants, they are important. My mother had told me that too, my father. So I reflected and wrote my essay. And I named that essay, We Are Ladies and Gentlemen, Serving Ladies and Gentlemen. Unless we sentence ourselves to be servants, if we're excellent in what we're doing, we're defining ourselves as ladies and gentlemen. It occurred to me for the first time that we define ourselves. But to that time, I had no private time. I could only define myself at work. But let's face it, you don't define yourself at home when you watch TV. You define yourself what you do at work and be excellent in what you're doing and enjoy it, whatever it may be. Great excellence. I honestly mean this. I have met dishwashers in my many years that came to work to be excellent and created excellence in what they were doing.
It's great to see that, you've witnessed it at every level.
Every level.
And every department of the business.
Exactly.
Right. And so where was the how did the basis of the Ritz-Carlton start?
Well, after I left that place, I worked in the honestly finest hotels in Europe. Mm-hmm. I don't just say that loosely. I worked in the best hotel in Place Aren in Paris and the Savoy in London and so on, Bourgeois Palace, Mondossan, etc. And then I came to the United States with the intent to work here for a year or two. I worked for Hilton. And got stuck in the country, if you will. But I'm very legal, by the way. It's just it's very clear, very legal, and I'm a citizen by now. So I got involved, worked for Hilton, and then joined Hyatt, and was promoted and hired. I was director of food and beverage, director of rooms, general manager, regional vice president, 10 hotels, corporate vice president, 65 hotels. And then somebody called me and said, we are starting a new hotel company. We have 2 hotels in construction in Atlanta. We need somebody to run the operations. Not our company, the operations of the company. And I had no interest because I had my golden handcuffs with Hyatt. I had everything I wanted. My friend, it's a great company, great people. But they kept on talking to me. I started to think, what would I do with that company? If I'm an operationally in charge, they were investors, developers, and so on. And I started dreaming, and the dream started to control me. And in end of 1982, I moved to Atlanta. And a little bit over a year later, we opened our first hotel, which was the RitzCarlton Buckhead, Atlanta. It is not a RitzCarlton anymore. For me, that was like burning my birth certificate. As the name was taken down. So I moved here, we started this hotel with the whole philosophy that was put in my heart by this maitre d', because I was thinking about him when I was dreaming. And I said, I will create a hotel company. I know the leaders of the world at the moment. It was Hyatt, it was Hilton International, Intercontinental. And I said, I know I can do it a little better. What did that mean? What means better? Is it a huge secret? No. Let's be a little friendlier. Let's be absolutely cleaner. Let's be a little more timely. Let's care a little bit more about the customer. And that's what it's all about. Let's create excellence for the customer, for the market. So I came here, looked at what would we do, how, and worked on the image. Mind you, in the beginning, here in Atlanta, mind you, that was 84, putting tea service with Wedgwood china and chamber music in the lobby. Some people thought I was nuts.
It was
Simple as that.
one of my favorites.
What is this? Some of my execs said, "What is chamber music?" so, but I did it for image. Had many people remember Gunther Seeger, who I hired a super gourmet chef. I know that would backfire for a while, and at a time, but he helped to create the image, and so. To be frank, that was very difficult because the hotel, frankly, was built to be a Holiday Inn.
Interesting.
And the downtown Ritz-Carlton was built to be a Marriott. But when Bill Johnson, the developer, could not come to agreement with those companies, that's when somebody recommended, why don't you start your own hotel company? So I had the first hotel I had, which I was running, obviously, was Buckhead. So I had to take a building that was a Holiday Inn building and make it an ultra-luxury hotel. And so, it wasn't smart strategically to have two hotels, 1,100 rooms in the ultra-luxury segment in one city.
Right.
But we created the image here, it expanded, and of course, 20 years later, we were totally clearly regarded and voted to be the best hotel company in the world. Not only that, the best brand in the world.
So most people will always associate Ritz-Carlton with luxury. And we talked a little bit about now what we're seeing in the marketplace is affordable luxury and ultra luxury.
Yes.
So can you speak to a little bit about that?
Yeah, the whole issue of luxury has changed. When we started Ritz-Carlton, luxury was chandeliers, real oil paintings, oriental rugs, marble, and so on. In the mind of the ultra-luxury customer, and we'll explain that for a moment, that's not luxury. Luxury to the ultra-luxury customer is to say the same, do it my way. Here's how I want it, and you better do it my way. I don't care about your rules as a business. I want X. So that started developing about 20 years ago, when the present luxury hotel groups, kind of the customer split into two. One is, and that is ultra luxury and affordable luxury. Ultra luxury, when I retired after nearly 20 years, traveling 250 days a year, I retired, and on the weekend, I realized my neighbor retired. I talked to him because he wanted to do what he likes, playing golf. Well, I like to play hotels. So I said to my wife on Monday, I'm going to do it one more time. She immediately declared me insane and in fact wanted to call a doctor. But after a few days, my wife, being who she is, said, that's who you are, I support you. So I started Capella, an ultra-luxury hotel company. We have a number of hotels in Asia and Europe. What's the difference? We only have smaller hotels, up to 100 rooms, because the ultra-luxury customer doesn't like conventions. We do for the customer anything, as long as it's legal, moral, and ethical, we do it. We call the customer beforehand and said, when you come here to Singapore, let's say, what can we do for you? Do you have an allergy, a diet? What do you want us to do for you in Singapore? We are here for you. No check-in time, no check-out time. Hours of operation are irrelevant. Whatever you want, when you want it, you get it. It is total concentration. Of course, we have to charge for it. Yeah.
Which is fantastic, because that is the ultra-luxury customer is looking for the experience that they envision in their own minds.
That's
and
right.
You're there to deliver that experience.
That's right.
At all costs.
That's right.
That's
right.
Like you said, within limits. Like, it has to be legal.
Yeah, it will happen. You will see in my industry, it's developing more and more in the sleeping commodities. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
People get upset with me, some brands, and say, well, it's okay. Because I went to New York the other day, got there at 11 o'clock, check in, check out next morning at 6. What do I need then? I don't need an experience. I need a great, clean room.
Right.
That's what I need. But if I stay longer, I want to count on you to respond to me to other needs that I may have while I'm there. And that is the ultra luxury offers that. You will pretty soon, even in the luxury brands, you would check in with your app. You will never see anybody. You go to your room. Your telephone is your key, and you're there. And then you check out the next one without ever seeing anybody. That's a sleeping commodity, which is happening even to the luxury brands. And then developing are the independent hotels and small ultra luxury groups that are there for the experience, for anything you want, that you can rely on for anything. So that is what's happening. And of course, that extra that you get, it's called service.
Right.
That's called service. Now, service seems to be a confusing word in the world today, because even organizations have the word service in their name. When you ask them what it really is, they have no idea.
Right. The definition is not clear.
It's not clear, absolutely. Yeah. And there is no delivery, no creation of that product which is called service.
Right. So we look at it as in our business, in the real estate business, is, you want to create the best experience during the transaction that you possibly can. We're looking to look ahead and anticipate the customer need, right?
Yes.
And deliver this experience. And the service part of it is that we're anticipating everything and informing you about everything along the way, so that when there's ever a hiccup, we already have that plan in place to take care of the customer.
Well, focusing on the customer.
Correct.
And focusing on their need and trying to take care of their need and wishes. Not serving myself in that moment. The moment the customer is in front of me, I'm there to understand, to feel, to focus what is best for them, and then deliver what is very best for them in a very caring way, in a very responsive, caring way. And of course, I had to rely that 24,000 employees around the world do that. So consequently, I had to create processes to do it. The fascinating, and I explained that all very careful in the book, how to do it, why to do it, and how to deliver that, as you know. And mind you, we were the leader in every market segment where we were. If that was Japan or China or Germany or wherever we were, we accomplished that. How? It's not a great secret. I explain it. We concentrated on the market, and it's in any way, and we knew the expectation of the customer.
Right.
The fascinating thing is that when you purchase anything, it doesn't matter what it is: a house, real estate, a car, a bottle of water, which happens to be one in front of me. What do you expect subconsciously when you purchase this bottle of water or whatever it is? You expect that the product is defect-free. You don't want anything to swim in there, so I don't want it to leak. But that's a subconscious expectation.
Right.
You expect to get it timely when you want it. And next, you expect that the people who give it to you are nice to you. Here's the crazy thing. We have all kind of processes to make sure that the bottle of water is fine, the company has or whatever. They have all kind of process to deliver it in time. But there's no process that the people are nice. The service process doesn't exist. That's hoped for. Even the name service may be in the company's name. Now, but here's the craziest thing. We know also unequivocally that the greatest driver of customer satisfaction is the being nice piece. So why wouldn't we have a process in that? And that again is what kind of the essence of the book, to explain that and explain how to accomplish it. Just like there should be a process in creating the water defect-free, the bottle of water, or the car or the house or whatever, there should be a process of delivering careful service everywhere.
Right.
And you can't you can't hope on it. But it seems that service, even when the company advertises service, you go in there and ask, what's your process to accomplish this caring? Doesn't exist. They hope it somehow happened. Hope isn't a strategy, by the way.
Well, the interesting thing about that is I feel that the service industry is reactionary, whereas the excellence, quote unquote, industry, or where we are in the service lane, we are there to anticipate everybody's needs and to create an experience so that we're going to create loyalty, and that's how the business sustains because you're consistently delivering this experience. And so customer service is the window in the back of the building where you're complaining. Now, not to say that there's not opportunity there to create an additional experience or be creative with some excellence. But where would you say is, I mean, I know the process of service has to be, you have to learn how to be a skilled service provider. Yeah. And so would you say that a lot of the training that you've done with your past teams has been in this vein where you're talking about service, or you're just talking about the delivery of the experience?
No, I'll explain the overall system, the various processes that we have to make sure that my doorman in Osaka is nice to the arriving guest, or the doorman or bellman or any employee anywhere.
Right.
But the key element that you touched on for a second is I want to create loyal customers. A great company, number one, wants to have loyal customers. And you cannot encroach it with anything else you do. You want loyal customers. Every employee of ours knows if you go in, and if you would ask any employee, dishwasher, potboy, doesn't matter, what is your function? They will say, I'm here to convince the guest to want to come back by what I'm doing. So how I'm going to create that type of an employee? So I have to create that because my product is between my employee and the customer. That's the product. That interaction is my product. I'm not producing bedspreads or mattresses. I produce this moment. So how I'm going to produce, and again, it's carefully described here. First of all, I have to select the right employees. I can't just hire. I have to have a clear profile for every job category and hire people to that job category. Next, I have to hire them not to fulfill their function. I have to hire them to join me on my objective, on my dream, in my vision, on my purpose, and give them purpose at the same time. In RitzCarlton, we hired people, join us to create the finest brand in the world. Don't come here to work. Join me in this dream. And then I connect the employee in the orientation to the motive of my dream. The motive is so we can grow, so that you have opportunity. By the way, the millennials want to hear that. The millennials say, what's in it for me?
Right.
Well, tell them. Here is where we want to go. Join me. By the way, here's how it's good for you. Because we'll grow, that gives you opportunity. We will be highly respected. That means you will be respected. We'll be honored. That means you will be honored. We'll be busy and make money. That means you make my money, etc., etc., etc. You will be here. You will be defined as a member of the greatest organization of the world. You have created it in a way. And I was in a couple of years ago, the 5-star award in New York, where all the 5-star managers of the world come and get awarded Forbes award. And the Forbes introducer said that Horst Schulze is in the room. Everybody stood up and applauded. Wait a minute, did they applaud me? No. They applauded the image of RitzCarlton, which also reflected at every other employee. And I can tell you now, if a RitzCarlton employee looks for a job and 100 others, the RitzCarlton employee gets it because they have the image of being excellent. And we invite people to join this effort, to be excellent together, to be recognized together. And by the way, means you have to fulfill your function better than our competitor does.
Absolutely.
So we select right, we orient right. Go to an orientation in any company. Look here, I see it all the time. I work with many companies. The new guy comes to work, and there's Bill, and the boss makes his pathetic team speech. Forgive me. We are a team here. Wait a minute. If you're a team, you have to give up and you have to tell them the objective. A team has a common objective and help each other to the objective. But that's not being discussed. It's just we're a team. And then Bill, work with Joe. He knows the ropes. You're not doing any ropes, but somehow Bill knows ropes, and I don't know. Somehow they get together and talk. I don't know what that's no orientation. Orientation. I'm telling you. Everybody, every new employees, by the way, every new RitzCarlton or take over RitzCarlton, 55 of them, anywhere in the world, I did the orientation. And said, here's who we are. Join us. Here's our dream. Be part of it. Don't come here to work. Join our dream. But by the way, I expect a lot of work too. Otherwise, we don't make the dream. There is beauty in that dream. Let's have fun. Let's be friends. And so it was a team that was unbelievable. I ran into a guy last night in a small airport in Texas. And he comes up and says, always I wouldn't have recognized him. Mr. Schulze. And he said, I have to thank you for the environment. But we grew up with that's what I'm doing in my business now. Everything, what a fun it was. It can't be repeated what we did together. With fun together. We made a decision to have fun together. So the process was selecting, orienting, training, but then we sustained it. Everything that they learned the first 3 days, we carefully taught 20 points. So we repeat every day one of those points. Today, in every hotel, it may be point 12. If somebody asks for direction, don't point, take them there. We teach that today. Tomorrow is point 30 and so on. In 20 days, is point 12 is there again. And you heard it again. So the key elements that make us superior to the competition, we drive home and drive home and drive home and drive home. Day one, and every day from there on will be repeated. You know it, but you listen to it again. And we did that in my office, and we did it everywhere.
That's incredible. And I think, to your point, it's the repetition.
Yeah.
And it's becoming ingrained, and then it's a natural connection to the client.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the interesting is, after doing that for months and months, people get kind of, particularly the managers, get kind of bored. Well, they know it already. And I found they don't do it everywhere. And I said, why not? Well, everybody really knows it. I don't care. You see, and then I had all my managers together and said, anybody in the room who doesn't know Coca-Cola, raise your hand. Nobody raised their hand. So I said, oh, they know that you know what Coca-Cola is, yet they spend billions to advertise. Guess why? You have to keep it alive in everybody's mind.
That's right.
It's no different with the essentials of the organization.
Right. So tell me what you're seeing now as when you're consulting with companies that are expanding their talent pool to the millennial or the younger set, and where their hard work and creativity is coming into the workplace. How are your clients and or managers of the hotels really engaging with this set? Yeah.
Well, there is a transition happening. That's very clear. And what I just explained about the whole orientation, the hiring and the inviting, that it's more important than ever, because the millennial says, what's in it for me? Why should I do that? You see, we thought that too, but we were afraid to say it. That was a key element. We thought, what's in it for me? Why would I do that? The millennial has no problem asking it, saying it. So we have to, from the very beginning, you have to create that environment. Here's why. I mean, by the way, Adam Smith, 300 years ago, I find these things fascinating. When he wrote Wealth of Nation, he wrote another book, of which he was more proud than Wealth of Nation. He said at the time already, people cannot relate to orders and direction. People can only relate to objective and motive. Aristotle wrote that, having purpose in life. But the millennial says, I want to have a purpose if it is worthwhile for me. So you show them the purpose and show them the connection to your motive of that purpose. And you have to keep on doing that very clearly. And you have to make it very clear to them even. They like to hear that. I'm not hiring to work here. I'm hiring some higher purpose. There it is. And show it to them very clearly, paint it. Make it very clear. That vision. Now, as a leader, when you develop that vision, you have to ask yourself, agonize, really question yourself, is this vision good for all concerned? Is it good for my investors? Of course. Without investors, I won't have a business. Is it good for my customers? It must be, otherwise you won't be in business. Is it good for every employee? It must be, otherwise you won't be in business. In addition, though, is it good for society? Once the question is an unequivocal yes, you now can share it with everybody. And now you share it with the millennials because they like that. They like that. They want to see that you're not just there to drive business money for the investor, but your heart and your whole objective is encompassing all concerned. And it's essential to show them that. They buy into those things.
They do, and they're buying into also, what good the company is doing in the world. Yeah, and as well as knowing that they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Well, as I said, it has to, even your vision has to be good for society. You have to show them that,
right?
And it has to be defined. It isn't just say here's a point. No, what does this point do? What does it do in the future for all concerned? And you show them that, and they buy in. They buy in, and always on their list, they're not just working for somebody to make more money.
Right.
There's much more to it, and there's much more beauty to it. And all of a sudden, work is something absolutely fabulous. What do you want to do instead going to work? What do you want to do? How many days can you play golf or whatever the heck you're doing?
Right.
Or watch TV. No, don't watch TV and see others produce and think, go yourself and produce excellent.
This is how you're empowering the team.
That's right.
This is how companies empower. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about how you empowered your team early on. And we can talk about a woman named Mary.
Yeah. But the empowering piece, remind me of the rest. The empowering piece was very important to me because, let's face it, we have two buzzwords in business. They're still only buzzwords to the greatest extent. One is alignment. And you align people when you orient, show them where you're going to go and show them who your customers think, show them who you are. You align them truly to your soul, to your heart, to your function, to everything. You let them know everything. If you don't do that, if you just tell them we're a team here and turn them over to somebody else, you're not aligning.
Right.
Alignment isn't every employee know. If you go into any hotels and ask any employee what's the vision of this company, they will tell you. They know it. It's not written in the annual report. So we asked people to join us, to be ladies and gentlemen, to work with us, and here's who we are. And then of course we found that some customers, no matter what, are unhappy. So we taught problem and solution. And the interesting is there are three types of customers. The unhappy one that becomes a terrorist against the organization. The satisfied one who goes next door if they have a better deal. And the loyal one. So I want loyal customers and I want employees to help with that. But I knew if a problem happens and the expectations are very high in RitzCarlton, so the smallest thing they will complain about, if that complaint is handled well, I can move them from dissatisfaction to loyal right away. So who do they complain to? Not to me, to the employee. So I had to empower the employee to move heaven and earth to keep the customer. So I came out with the direction that every employee is empowered to make a decision up to $2,000 to make the guest happy if something negative happened. Well, that created a nuclear explosion. I mean, you want every employee to give $2,000.
It's discretionary.
No.
It's discretionary.
Totally. But they can make a decision. I will not question them.
Mm-hmm.
No, nobody ever gave $2,000. A guest may have come down and said, I didn't like my room. And the waiter said, I'm so sorry, forgive me. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to complain. We teach that. In fact, I feel so bad, I will buy you breakfast. Now, the guest will be shocked and totally moved from anger to total loyalty. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted, because I knew statistically the customer in front of you may be worth $200,000 lifetime. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to spend something to keep that customer. For us, number one in the company, keep the customer. And that was a reaction to that.
So the customer is always right?
No.
But the customer is the focal point and the experience of the customer.
I absolutely focus on the customer. The customer is one employee at the beginning when I introduced here, we are ladies and gentlemen, several ladies and gentlemen. In fact, the doorman turned out to be a great guy. Said, well, Mr. Schulze, not everybody guests behave like ladies and gentlemen. I said,
true.
That's not our judgment to make. We respect everybody's ladies and gentlemen. Now some of them will, and I had situation where some of them be evicted customers. They were just impossible, and that is a very, very, very small percentage. We, in fact, know that 96%, 96% of all complaints, all the guests wants that somebody recognizes and says, I'm sorry. And they're just frustrated. Mm-hmm. They want to get rid of it. And as soon as somebody says, I'm sorry, please forgive me, they're kind of shocked. They're nearly embarrassed that they even said it. So, and that 3+%, and that's always over nearly close to 97%, but there's 3% plus that have a legitimate gripe where remedies should be met. Mm-hmm. And then there's a very fraction of percentage points that we call is the jerk factor.
We all know that one.
They just exist. Right. That's it. Right. And to ignore that. But however, I empowered everything except the decision who is a jerk and who is not.
Right.
That I didn't empower. Mm-hmm. When something very seriously happened, where you feel he's a real jerk and we have to do something, you call me. And if you're in Osaka, you can call me in the middle of the night. That's fine. Or in Bali, it doesn't matter. Worldwide, nobody makes a decision. Otherwise, every complaint is pushed into the jerk factor. Right. That doesn't go. So that's the one thing I didn't empower.
No, but it's when I read through the book, it sounded like there was always one or two that showed up at all the different hotels. Yeah. And the managers would call each other or call you and say, oh, he's back.
Here he is again. Yeah, I know.
He's still loyal, though.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Some of the stuff, and I just related one of those things in the book. But I could write another book on that. Obviously, over my 60 years in the business,
Wow, 60 years.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about what you are doing today.
I'm consulting. I'm making speeches. I'm on the Washington Speakers Bureau. I charge a lot for a speech. and I do consulting with several companies, some great companies. And in fact, we talked before, I came back last night I'm consulting with a small bank, which I'm going to predict. I can't give the name, but I would make a wager and give huge odds that in 10 years they will be the leading financial organization in America. Why am I saying that? They truly say, we want to focus on the customer. We want to be here for the customer and do what the customer needs and pay attention to the customer. And I'm teaching them how to do this. I have trained all the trainers. I finished training the trainers last night. We have over 200 people trained to train the rest of the organization. We set up the parameters and everything. And I make any bet because they focus on the customer. By the way, they take the book as a teaching material too. Mm-hmm. And with total concentration, every employee has to read it. There's book reviews until every employee is through it and understand the customer counts. It's not about us. It's not about what my mother-in-law tells me or the guy besides me in the plane thought.
Right.
It's about the market and the individual in front of you that you care about. And I have never seen anybody much more committed. I work with a medical group who is doing the same thing. I work with several companies, and I make speeches, not only in America, and it just was in Europe. I have a couple more speeches this year in Europe for large organizations, including the Swiss Postal Service and so on. so that's what I do.
Different types, all different businesses now.
I'm also, of course, still connected with Capella. I sold Capella.
Right.
And Capella is fabulous. I'm still slightly connected with them. By the way, anybody who's never heard of Capella, you have. I'm sure most people watched when Kim met Trump the first time in Singapore. Well, that was in the Capella Hotel.
Oh.
You saw it. So most of you have seen it. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Good PR.
Do you have a tip or advice for our listeners on, what could they do today to start really focusing on that experience with the customer? Something specific that you can take back, that they could take back to their offices today?
Yes, it is. It's the simple thing that I touched on. It's this customer focus. You have to understand something here. The customer makes a decision about you. That sounds crazy, but they do. And you, listeners, you in front of me, everybody, myself, we cannot help it. We make a decision about an organization the moment when we make contact with them. And we make a decision about a human being when we come within 9 feet of them. So why not make that moment a moment of excellence? Because subconsciously, you put the customer in front of you within 9 feet into a positive mode or a negative one. So that's why we taught, whatever you're doing, if a guest comes within 10 feet about, you look up and you give a great greeting and concentrate for that moment on that customer and create that positive feeling. We have analyzed when the first contact was excellent, never ever a complaint followed. It's interesting. When the first contact was negative, always did a complaint follow about slow service or about something. So, and the behavioral analyst will tell you that. And it doesn't matter what society tells you, all kind of garbage. Look skin deep and all that. Oh, sure. But the fact is you're a human being. You cannot help it. You make subconscious decisions. So why not take advantage of that?
Right. And
be exceptionally nice. The first moment, welcome. Not hey. If I say hi, I'm saying you're the same than I am. If I say good morning, sir, I'm saying I respect you and I am very professional. So those are the best tip I can create. Put the right frame of mind into that customer, and don't focus on what they want. Don't look somewhere else and think and give the impression that you don't care. Pay attention, and pay attention. Listen. If you say too many things, you're obnoxious. If you don't say enough, you're rude. Be careful. Don't be too elegant. Elegance without warmth is arrogance.
Right.
Those are the little things that you have to understand. Teach yourself. And after every customer transaction, that's what I did as a waiter. Every time I took an order from a table order for the food or whatever, the moment when I actually communicate with the customer, I walked away and said, how could I have done that better? Did I say too much? Did I say too little? After every customer transaction, say, how could I have done that better? Could I have convinced them a little bit more to want to be here and deal with me? Teach yourself. Make a decision to be excellent.
I love that. Now we'll just have to clone that and keep repeating that over and over and over again. Horst, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us where we can find the book?
You can. Amazon, obviously, and bookstores. Is in bookstores, Amazon.com. If you want to do more, you can text Horst 797979.
Oh, excellent.
So.
And then you'll send the book right out?
No, then we connect you and sell you something else. No. We don't push anything. I'm not a pusher. But you can get more information and help. We have companies that we have modules, training modules and so on.
Excellent.
Anyway, yeah.
It's an excellent book, Excellent Wins by Horst Schulze, and you can find it again on Amazon and anywhere books are sold. Thank you so much for joining us
Great
today.
to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you.